Rob, we talked about the games coming thick and fast, and here we are 24 hours from another one now. But the way your team have come back from restart, we've talked about it for weeks now, but you must be really pleased.
Yeah, I mean, they're really showing kind of, I suppose, the way we felt about them in week one, where, before the Leicester game we were saying, well, in training they looked like they've looked after themselves in lockdown. They came back into stage one and worked extremely hard and pushed on then very quickly because they came back in good physical condition. And obviously we had a short but successful stage two, including a couple of in-house games where it looked like we were ready to go. And that's kind of improved to be correct, really. I've got to give the players great credit for how hard they've worked. We're showing up some great stats, not just on the amount of actions the guys are doing in games, but also the distances they're hitting, the speeds they're hitting, heart rates, how they're working out. The guys are challenging themselves, and I don't think we can ask anything more than that. Go out there, challenge yourself, be the best you can be, do the best you can do, and hopefully you reap the rewards. And that's exactly what's happening.
Notoriously we're strong at home, but these last two away games in particular against very strong opposition, the guys have really stepped up, and that must give you huge heart moving into what is the business end now.
Oh, definitely, and I think the important thing is to make sure those guys know that there's the chance to be rewarded by us moving selection around a little and us really rewarding top level performances. A number of those guys, I don't mind saying, they're creating real selection headaches as we get towards the European quarter final. I mean, certainly the lads who are playing tomorrow night against Gloucester are very aware that they have to perform well if they want to be considered for selection against Northampton, and kind of that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a top level performance tomorrow.
You talked in the aftermath of Northampton, guys like Kirsten, Hendrickson, O'Flaherty. They really, they are hitting the best form possible.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a strong Northampton side, and some of those guys really stood out against frontline Premiership top four opposition. And you've got to look at that, and you've got to believe it with your own eyes. You've got to see it, and you've got to think about rewarding it. Having said that, the guys who are playing tomorrow against Gloucester have also put in some good performances, and it's kind of mixing those performances together and judging the right group of players going forward. It's ultimately going to decide the success and failure of the season.
We knew the midweek games would throw up different challenges and teams would adopt it a different way. After tomorrow night, do you expect people to go back to full strength sides every week, and do you expect the challenge to be a lot different?
No, it's weird. I mean, you would think you're going to get a split now in the Premiership. So this is a 3-game block. So the weekend that's just been, this midweek block games, the weekend games, there are midweek blocks. So no one can start all three. So you're going to get an element of rotation through these 3 games. Some people will target the 2 end games. Some will target the middle game. That's for any club to decide what to do. But now, when you get past the weekend, when we go to Saracens, things change a little bit then, because you've got a number of clubs who are still in Europe, and you've got obviously a number of clubs who aren't, and then you've got a midweek group of games between a potential European quarter-final and then a potential European semi-final. So you could get to the stage where teams now will have a 9-day break, no other game apart from heading into their next midweek fixture, where they're obviously going to go strong. You're not going to put a week aside out in that middle fixture, because you haven't got European games either side. You've got a 9-day turnaround into it, and you've got a 9-day turnaround coming out of it. So those are going to be full-bore Premiership sides. For the teams involved in Europe, we still got to manage our way into going, well, if we play full strength in the European quarter-final, which I imagine most teams will, our midweek game gets pushed back a week. If we win, we go the following weekend to a semi-final. But if we play a semi-final, we then have a midweek game, and then a game against Worcester away on the Sunday, before hopefully you follow into a Premiership semi-final. So obviously clubs who get into that pattern of games are going to be in a completely different scenario around how they're going to manage their squad. Likewise, if we lose the European quarter-final, we've got a 9-day turnaround into the home fixture against London Irish before we travel to Wasps. So straight away then, if we lose the quarter-final, our management pattern changes. So there's going to be 2 or 3 different things that are going to happen over the next 3 or 4 weeks. It's not for me to say, but for a few clubs, it's going to be very different.
And obviously the scenarios of it all is totally different. But knowing you as I do, you're not going to see your boys. The message, you're right on the verge of a playoff place, but the message is keep the hammer down now.
100%, because for whatever anybody says, I can easily see a couple of the teams below us winning 4 or 5 games. Now, that could potentially still put them above us, and we end up although I think it's going to be hard for us not to be in the top four, it could easily knock us out of the top two spots if we don't, or if we lose our focus on the Premiership because we become over-focused on Europe. We've still got to have our mind purely on and fully focused on collecting points, because collecting points is, like I say over and over again, it doesn't matter how you collect them, whether it's a 4-point win because you win in the last minute, whether it's a bonus point win because you're in control, and however you collect those points, a losing bonus point because you're scrapped to the end, however you collect them, you've got to just keep collecting them.
And obviously Gloucester tomorrow night, Rob, what are you expecting from them?
Well, this is, again, it's hard to tell, isn't it? Because until we see selection at 12 o'clock today, it's hard to tell their mindset. But one thing you know is that they're also on a little bit buoyant. You can tell they're kind of enjoying their rugby. They've actually got a broader squad, I think, than most people think. I looked at particularly the back line they put out in their change-up side. And when you see, you've got international wingers and international centres, and, you start to look at it and go, actually, an international back rowers, you start thinking, well, their change-up side is not quite what some people think it is. They'll certainly come here with a point to prove. Certainly come here with nothing to lose. When you go in against the team that's top of the Premiership, you're the team with all the points to prove. And we've got to fight against that by doing a lot of things really well, focusing on ourselves, which has been our big focus and something we've done really well so far, and making sure we lay out the energy onto the field that gets the job done.
And on the injury front, Ollie Devoto comes back in the squad. We've got Stu Townsend very close. You're looking good again now, aren't you?
Yeah, we're getting there. It seems like the injuries we picked up might be relatively minor, hopefully. Like anything else, we've got one or two guys who have scans and bits and pieces, and who knows what they can pick up. But on the whole, we're looking like actually currently we're thickening out, not thinning. Although we have got a few guys with little niggles that are making them unavailable on a kind of day-by-day, week-by-week basis. But that happens. On the whole, we feel pretty comfortable where we are.